Walking simulators are a special video game genre in that they are specifically known for the greater lack of, well, game. Whether or not they actually qualify as video games is irrelevant semantics, though for the record, I think they're close enough. To define walking simulator loosely, they are games in which the gameplay consists primarily of exploring and interacting with an environment, where the true primary focus of the game is something else, such as story, narrative, music, information, pretty much anything except what you are actually doing with your own hands. The only exception to this being hentai games. The term walking simulator is often used pejoratively, but I beg to differ. I like walking sims because I enjoy a purely narrative and/or atmospheric experience. To me, it's just that, an experience. That's really what I'm looking for in any creations that I consume. It needs to make me think or feel something. You know, because I'm not a Philistine, I'm an enjoyer of only the highest of arts. Everyone knows true art is boring. Walking sims are perfect for this. These games often have very few tasks that are required of the player. Sometimes all that's required is that you traverse through an environment. Due to this, there are no complex gameplay mechanics distracting you from things such as atmosphere, environment, and story, which enhances all of those aspects and results in a unique sort of immersion when compared to traditional games. There's still just enough interactivity to make use of the interactive medium and force the player to pay attention to and be affected by these aspects, but not too much so as to distract from them. Another benefit walking simulators have is that they are a very accessible genre in multiple ways. Not only are they easy for players to get into, they are also easy for people to create because of their simplicity. It doesn't require any really complex programming. It's a very efficient medium through which to express stories and feelings. You get the benefit of the interactivity while still not costing too much time or resources to make. And that's just about all I have to say about the genre generally. That's another important thing. Simplicity. Less is more, beauty and simplicity. In these things, I believe quite heavily. The more complicated you make something, the more entropy is involved, and the more room there is for error. Walking sims are very simple creations, but effective in what they do. Now, why don't we take a look at some of them? There will be spoilers for all games discussed, so keep that in mind. Yume Nikki is a game made in RPG Maker, a very accessible game engine which has things such as movement and interaction built in by default. In Yume Nikki, you play as a person named Madotsuki, or however the fuck you're supposed to spell that, I don't know, and you explore your own dreams after going to sleep. And that's about it. There is technically a goal of sorts, an ending which is achieved by collecting a bunch of things, but the main point is to explore. It's an incredibly simple and minimalistic game, and it is a good example of why that works so well. Everything is stripped down so that the only thing your attention is directed towards is the environment, the dreams that you are exploring. Which means that this game is a breeding ground for interpretation and theories based on the dream environments. And boy, did people interpret it. Such a simple creation, yet such a large community formed around it, making so many theories and interpretations of Madotsuki's dreams. Some real value has been extracted from it. This game's story has stimulated so much thought, yet there is no story, at least not in the common sense of the word. The game doesn't outwardly tell you anything about the main character, and the little that you can discover, such as that they are a shut-in because they refuse to go outside, doesn't amount to much, yet that's all that was needed. The sound design is also very simplistic. Each area has its own music track playing in the background, in addition to your footsteps. But what's special about Yume Nikki's soundtrack is that every single track is only a few seconds long, and it just loops. You might think this would get annoying, and maybe it does for some, but I think it's an important part of what makes this game feel the way it does. The repetitive tracks are almost hypnotizing. When you combine that with the monotonous process of traveling between points of interest, trying to find new things in areas you've already explored, it's almost like it has some kind of sensory deprivation type effect. It makes you feel drowsy, tired, like you're gonna fall asleep. which actually happened to me. I fell asleep once while playing this game. My session had lasted late into the night, and I got so tired I fell asleep. So basically, you could say that the game is so boring, it puts you to sleep. Well, yeah, you could put it like that if you're an asshole. I just think it's fitting that a game about exploring dreams would put you in a drowsy, possibly half-awake dreamlike state. These types of games are all about experience, and this experience is likely intended to induce feelings of drowsiness and... Wait, who the fuck are you? What are you doing in my house? I wish I knew the answer to that myself. I wish I could leave this place and see what's outside. If there is anything at all. Is there an outside? I don't know which is worse. The idea that there is no outside, or that if I go out there, I'll find something that I shouldn't have. But I have to try, don't I? Would it really be a good idea to just stay here forever? Yeah. No, I don't think so. So, fuck off. I've already told you, I can't. I've tried before. Come on, why don't you try it? Try leaving. No, I don't wanna. See, there's the problem at hand. This calls for... rumination. Okay, you're not gonna leave? Hello? Okay, anyway, moving on. Bet you weren't expecting this one. Shadow of the Colossus isn't exactly a walking simulator. It's only partly one. It is a game where you kill colossi, which are big giants. But in between killing them, you must travel to each one, and they are each quite far apart in this desolate place known as the Forbidden Lands. You travel by horse ride, so I guess it's more of a horse riding simulator than walking, but you get what I mean. A very significant portion of the game time is spent exploring and traversing an environment. And it really is a desolate land. The map is pretty big, but there's nothing to do in it except travel to and kill the colossi. You can also get fruit and hunt lizards to increase health and stamina, but that's it. It's an empty open world. This contributes to the atmosphere of the game immensely. It feels so desolate and somber, and the lack of any distracting gameplay mechanics during your travels leaves you no choice but to sink into it. There's nothing to pay attention to except the world and what it makes you feel. The emptiness also makes sense in context because it's a forbidden land, the only purpose of which is to contain the evil force within it, the antagonist of the game, Dorman. There's no reason there would be anything else here than wilderness. This game also has an amazing soundtrack, but especially the way the soundtrack is utilized is perfect. The music is saved for when it really matters, when you're fighting the colossi, or during key cinematic moments. But when you're just traveling the world, there's no music at all. Just the sound of you, your horse, the wind, and the world. When you move the camera, you can hear that some of the wind sounds are coming from a certain direction, which leads me to believe that the wind sound effects aren't just one predetermined ambient track. Instead, I think the game is creating invisible objects at random spots around the player, which then emit the different wind sounds. Either way, it sounds real and very well done. In Shadow of the Colossus, the lack of things adds to the experience. The lack of music most of the time, the desolateness of the Forbidden Lands. It's almost like less is actually more. Babbdi takes place in the city of Babbdi, a concrete hellscape filled with brutalist architecture. Your objective is to escape. This game actually has movement mechanics. There's plenty of different items with which to locomote, and you can slide and jump to gain momentum. But all you're doing is exploring and talking to characters. This game has a truly bleak, desolate, and completely dead atmosphere. There's no music apart from the occasional ambient drone, along with a church bell ringing every once in a while. The only good thing that happens in the game is that in the end you escape the city. But even that costs the life of a sick woman who couldn't get out of the city in time, so you got their train ticket. The city of Babbdi is concrete purgatory. Its residents are stuck there because the local government stopped giving out train tickets. Even death is not an easy escape. There is no fall damage, and the residents are aware of this. One says, "Try jumping. It doesn't hurt." The sick woman was an exception, but even her death was slow and probably painful. The buildings are so colossal compared to you. So oppressive, they make you feel small and helpless. Everything is rough and gray and just, for lack of a better word, ugly, including the residents. But in a good way. This grungy aesthetic is even present in the main menu. The logo/title text is uncomfortably shoved in the corner, not respecting the margins of the screen. The menu buttons are strangely positioned, and the control guide screen is hastily doodled. A lot of the text in the game is written in a strange manner. They are rough imitations of words, but mangled, as if an alien tried to replicate human writing without quite understanding it. That's just it. The city of Babbdi is alien. It's inhuman. Inhuman architecture, inhuman writing, inhuman TV shows that are clearly AI-generated images. Oh, and also the text is probably AI-generated as well. This city is not for humans. It is designed for mindless automatons. Dear Esther was originally a mod for Half-Life 2 made in 2008. A remake was also made and released on Steam in 2012, but I played the original mod, so I don't know what the remake is like. Dear Esther is essentially the poster child of walking simulators. It actually got quite a bit of attention when it was made, won some awards. It takes place on an island, and as you traverse through it, you hear a voice telling you a story. Fragments of letters from the narrator to a person named Esther. And I mean fragments. You really have to listen to the dialogue intently. It's pretty cryptic and drenched in metaphor and symbolism. You are given zero context. You are simply thrust into the story as an outsider, as if you're intruding upon the thoughts or memories of someone else. This story isn't being told to you, you're eavesdropping on it. Some of the dialogue lines are randomized each playthrough, meaning that in order to hear all of them and piece together the whole story, you have to play through it multiple times. I played through the game 3 different times, however those repeat playthroughs were not too enjoyable, to be honest. As we've established, building atmosphere is the strong suit of walking sims, and Dear Esther is a good example of why that's important, because it doesn't utilize that very much. There is often a complete lack of atmospheric sounds. No wind, no animal sounds, no sound of the waves crashing on the shore. And when there is wind, they fuck it up by making it a local 3D sound effect. But again, I remind you, this is just concerning the original 2008 mod. They probably improved it in the remake. It's just that, since this entire video I've spoken of games I like, I thought I'd mix it up by throwing in something I didn't quite enjoy. Also, it might be intentional, to be honest. The lack of atmospheric sounds, the lack of life, it makes the island feel more dead, lifeless, which would fit thematically because I believe Dear Esther's story is about death, and maybe remembrance. The island is cold and lifeless, like a corpse. It is compared to the bodies of characters multiple times.
If the caves are my guts, this must be the place where the stones are first formed. The bacteria phosphoresce and rise, singing through the tunnels. Everything here is bound by the rise and fall, like a tide. Perhaps the whole island is actually underwater.
A lot of the characters in the story die and are described going through injury and bodily harm and suffering. At the end of the game, there is general talk of remembering the dead, particularly in reference to the various drawings the narrator drew onto the island, and the cell tower, or as the narrator calls it, the beacon. These things are supposed to serve as memorials for the characters in the story that died. Or, this is what I make of it anyway. But be that as it may, the game would still benefit from having atmospheric sounds. Babbdi also had a dead atmosphere, but it wasn't dead silence. There was wind and church bells and nondescript droning. You gotta have something to fill your ears. Although, then again, if you're really going for that theme of death, and the island is supposed to metaphorically represent the narrator's body, then yeah, I guess dead people don't tend to make too many sounds. Regardless, in the end, I can still acknowledge this game's importance, as I reckon it probably contributed to the popularization of walking simulators as a genre. And also probably the infamizing of it. Oh well, all attention is good attention. ThatGameCompany is a game company which is known for their minimalistic games. Their game design philosophy is based on trying to evoke feelings and emotions in players. You won't find a single game these guys made that even has a health bar. Except maybe Sky, Children of Light. I don't know about that one because I haven't played it yet. ThatGameCompany's most well-known game is Journey, but before Journey there was a lesser-known game called Flower. Flower was ThatGameCompany's second game, released in 2009. And yeah, I did just record my TV screen with a camera. I have a physical copy of the game, and I don't got a capture card. I'm not gonna let that physical copy go to waste, and I'm not gonna buy the games again on Steam. You can see the game, and that's all that matters. Anything above 720p is complete overkill and symptomatic of a man's never-ending hubris and desire for aimless, mindless progress. Anyway, in Flower, you play as the wind, and you blow through flowers to make them bloom and collect petals. That's it. That's all it needs to do, because that's all it's trying to do. It's a beautiful looking game with beautiful music, and it's very relaxing. And also, the fluid motion controls really make you feel like the wind. IGN, 10 out of 10. There's not really a story because there's no characters, although you can discern a theme and some kind of vague message about nature versus urbanness? That's a fucking stupid word. At the beginning of the game, you're shown a depressing city devoid of nature. At the end, spoiler alert for a game where you play as the wind, 3, 2, 1, you're shown a city, but with trees and greenery. Simple message, simple presentation, simple execution, perfect execution. It's all you need. But now that we've sufficiently dick-ridden this genre, let's look at a game that isn't a walking sim, nor minimalistic or simple. Pathologic is a game where you have to attempt to save a town that is being plagued by an epidemic from itself. A majority of it consists of walking around the town talking to people, trying to get leaders in positions of power to do something and actually believe that it is in fact a plague that is killing people in the town, and not some supernatural monster, as the townsfolk are very superstitious. While doing this, you also have to buy and eat food to not starve to death, along with sleeping to avoid exhaustion. There is also combat, but it's not mechanically complex or interesting. The game makes it clear that fighting should be avoided, and Rambo you are not, so you will almost definitely die. And last but not least, the most defining aspect is time. Time passes constantly, and events in the game transpire whether you're there to witness them or not. So if you waste too much time, important characters will die and you will lose opportunities. This gives the game a constant sense of tension, as you're trying your best to figure out and complete all your tasks, while also having to keep track of your own health and make sure you don't die from exhaustion. It's even more stressful when you're not sure what to do. Every second spent thinking is a second closer to failure and death. Unless you pause the game, but come on, that's cheating. So the game's tension is largely, if not completely, derived from its mechanics, its difficulty. The same goes for the atmosphere, which is made more oppressive due to the constant looming threats to the player's progress. Mechanics also tell story, and make the player feel like part of the story, not just an observer. In Pathologic, the narrative tells you that the townsfolk are suffering. Due to the plague, food prices skyrocket and water stops being distributed. This is reflected exactly in the gameplay. The player too suffers because of the mechanical threat that higher food prices poses to them. You too need food to survive. You too can be infected with the plague. This might make you actually empathize with the characters in the game. This is all to say that walking simulators are not inherently better for storytelling or evoking feelings. You can use mechanics to greatly enhance those aspects. This is in fact an understandable critique one could have of walking simulators, that they fail to realize the capability of game mechanics to advance narrative and evoke feeling in players. And to that I concede. Certain games will benefit much more from having effort put into creating intricate player interaction and mechanics. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that there's nothing wrong with being minimalistic and opting to make a walking simulator instead. I've perceived that even the phrase itself has negative connotations. Walking simulator is used as an insult towards some games. I seek to change that. Let it be known across the land that walking simulators are not inherently lazy or undesirable, but instead a genre of focused and concise experiences that easily claim the benefits of the interactive medium while still being delightfully accessible to creators and enjoyers. You're still here? Get the fuck out!